welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast show of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today, I'm in the studio with my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up, everybody?
And in order to keep our streams going and help us fix our broken streams, Janelle Wheeler is still holding it down from her home studio.
Yes, really excited to be here, though. Woo, we have an interview.
We miss you here in person to
I know. I miss you guys.
Balance out the wild, dude fest that is me and Matt.
But I'll be back soon.
We're not alone today. We are not alone today. We have a very special guest, and I mean special like I had to do like a personal, bow down, thank you, worshiping act before we even started here. Because I don't use the word like iconic very often, but I feel like it's appropriate in this case.
Yeah.
And so, Matt, you were very kind to line up this guest as you've been killing it on the guest front lately. Who do we have for the people today?
Well, we have iconic writer Dan Jurgens today coming into the show to talk Superman. Of course, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And of course, it is still weird for me to say that it is the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman. It's still, every time I say it out loud, it's just like super surreal for me. So, of course, they're doing DC's doing a big 30th anniversary special. And what's awesome about it, of course, is that it has so many of the original teams, and including yourself. And so just to kind of start us off a little bit, I guess, how do you feel, what can you tease about jumping into this project and the story? And then also, how do you feel that event, that iconic event, has kind of changed Superman over the years?
Well, there are a lot of answers to that question because there are several questions there. In terms of the special, I would say that it's been a very fun project that works on a couple of dual purposes. One is that, yes, as you mentioned, it gets the original crew back together. So if we go back to when we did the death of Superman, there were 4 books, Superman, Action Comics, Adventures of Superman, and Man of Steel, that were done by 4 creative teams that worked very tightly together to kind of provide one complete story across 4 books. In a way, we were a weekly comic. And certainly while we were doing the death of Superman, we were that. So we got the same crew back together again. At that time, I was writing and drawing Superman with Brett Breeding on inks. We have the action team of Butch Guice and Roger Stern back together. On Man of Steel, it was Louise Simonson and John Bogdanov. And on Adventures of Superman, it was Jerry Ordway as writer with Tom Grummett and Doug Hazelwood as artists. So what we said is, what if we were going to do kind of a commemorative special, marking the fact that 30 years ago, we had done this big Death of Superman story. So we would do kind of a modern take on it that would work a couple of ways. One of which is, if you were there at the time and you saw what the craziness and insanity was like, the lines around the block at every comic book store in the country, people desperately trying to get their copy. If you remember those days and everything that went on, this will definitely bring back some fond memories. If you weren't there, there's new stuff in this that will appeal to you and launch some story material going forward. And at the same time, you'll find out a little bit about what was happening then and what it was all about. So I think it's a fun project.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I definitely remember those days. I think that was seriously, I think the first time that I remember a comic book story overtaking the pop culture zeitgeist to the point where every week, like week to week, we were on our edge of our seat, like a TV show to see what was happening. And it was such a great story about just Doomsday's progression, saying, oh my God, knowing this thing was coming. And just, I remember that. Yeah, it was quite a time. It was quite a time. Yeah.
It's so awesome, by the way, to see Kofi so jazzed.
You just not get this excited for interviews. This is awesome.
I love it so much.
Stop putting out my trade secrets. Stop.
I love it so much.
You're making me look less cool.
Well, and one of the things too that this issue will do, and you kind of mentioned it, we'll set up some new things, introduce some new characters, and of course, Doombreaker is one of the ones that has been getting the most attention. Obviously, anytime you introduce a character any way associated with Doomsday, it's going to be big news, and it's going to be a kind of a big attraction. What was the thought kind of process going into like designing the character? It's just the overall look, and as far as what do you kind of hope to see for that character moving forward?
Well, I think part of it was, and again, we didn't just want to do something that was going to be, oh, here's what happened 30 years ago, and here's our travel log through the story. We wanted to do something that would hit on something new, and to find an aspect of what did happen in the fight with Superman between him and Doomsday all those years ago, and use it now. And we do that by bringing John Kent into the story and adding a new element where, yes, this harkens back to Superman 75 and that fight scene in particular, but also sets us up with a new character called Doombreaker, and is something that can go forward a little bit with future story material. So again, it's that combination of old and new that I think works very, very well. That does provide kind of this platform to launch us into new stuff going forward.
Absolutely.
Dan, I wanted to kind of maybe pull back and ask you a broader question as somebody who's so associated with creating such memorable and iconic versions in Superman stories. There's this macro question that's been hanging around for many years, which is, what kind of Superman do we need for these days and times right now? And I think it would be a shame if I didn't take the opportunity to ask you, of all people, what is your thought process on just that large question, however you want to take it, from the comic book pages to movie screens and TV? What kind of take on Superman do you think we need right now?
In many ways, I would say it's kind of the same that Superman, in a way, has always been. If we go back to his original introduction in 1938, Superman was clearly sort of this champion of the people, this champion of justice that fought, lower level things, even like slumlords, if we go back to those very early appearances. But I think in terms of Superman representing these ideals of truth and justice, those are things that never fall out of favor. So I don't know that we need a changed Superman. I think what we do have are times where those things become a little more relevant and a little more important than perhaps they were, a couple of years ago. And I think Superman represents that. And one of the things I've always been asked over the years was this idea of, well, has Superman fallen out of favor? Is he too much the big blue Boy Scout, or are his ideals too retro and too old? And to that, I have always said, well, if you're going to say that someone is doing that if someone who is doing the right thing is kind of too old school, or someone who does represent truth and justice is too old school, that's not a commentary on the character. That's a commentary on us. And so I think what Superman always is able to do is provide this touch point where we can look at ourselves through him in a way. And when we do find out that we have maybe this greater need for Superman, I think it's because we're the ones who have drifted too far, not Superman.
Oh,
Dang.
wow. Mic drop.
I know, if we had a mic drop animation,
Yeah.
Are we done?
it would work out really well. The other thing we need to talk about, obviously, is that Action Comics is going to be doing a really special big issue, and you're going to be bringing back Lois and Clark, which was, really well received when the first series came out. So much so that it continued, even though like the rest of the universe was being kind of turned upside down, and that became a really fan favorite. So now you're bringing it back for Lois and Clark 2 in Action Comics 1050. What can you tease about that story? And is that like a time frame and a story that you had been wanting to return to for a minute?
So if we look at the 30th anniversary special that will be out next week, we see the Kent family in Metropolis. So it's Clark, Lois, and John. And at this point, John is still about 9 years old. And this is where he finds out really about Doomsday and the fact that his father died. And so this does take us back to a very particular era. So launching out of that story then, Lee Weeks and I are going to start a backup story in Action Comics 1051, which again follows Lois, Clark, and John, when John is still a kid, 9 years old, really starting to figure out, gee, I have gotten these powers. What can I do with them? And it puts us in that same sort of environment back then, because if we look at the miniseries that we did, we had the Kent family living in California on a farm, kind of with a secret life a little bit. Lois had become more of a novelist and a reporter on the side. Neither one were working for the Daily Planet. And kind of the setup for the story is well, let's just say that this Death of Superman special has a big fight in it that tears up the streets of Metropolis. So Perry White tells the Daily Planet crew, look, it's too hard to get into Metropolis now. The streets are a mess. The buildings have been damaged. Everybody gets to work remotely, much as we're all experiencing anyway. So the Kent family decides to go back to California. That's the setup for our series as it starts in Action 1051. And it takes us back to those fun times when I think we really kind of humanized the Kent family a little bit, and we got to see John really begin to emerge as a principal character in the DCU.
Yeah, well, I have truly enjoyed seeing the character of Jonathan Kent. The jump forward was a shock at one point in time in his life, because there is a lot of material there to explore. But I have enjoyed just seeing those new relationships and dynamics. But it's also awesome to have this, because I feel like there was so much time that we didn't really get to spend extra time with the character, and there was so much to really enjoy there. So I am, for one, very excited to be returning to that for a while. Any plans? So is that have a finishing? Is that going to be a certain number of issues that stories continue, or is that kind of an ongoing backup story in Action?
Right now, we're slated to do, I think it's either 6 or 7 for our first story arc. After that, we'll see.
Okay, awesome.
That's so exciting.
Janelle,
yeah. Well, I'm the big movie and TV show buff. I like sitting in front of a screen. So I gotta talk to you about the recent news about Henry Cavill returning to his role as Superman in the DC movie franchise. How do you feel about that news and him as Superman?
Well, I think it's stunning. And when I say stunning, I mean stunningly good. I think Henry Cavill really does this great Superman where he personifies the character. Part of it is people have always asked me about drawing Superman, what is entailed in that. And one of the things I talk about is Superman having a certain sense of presence on the page, that if he's in a room with the Justice League, he should be a figure of attention. He should have almost kind of a sense of nobility about him, but not one that is terribly assuming, like he's trying to put on airs. And I think Henry Cavill captures that and is able to portray that on screen in a natural way. So you don't even perceive that he's doing it. It's just there. And it kind of works on almost a sort of a subliminal level. So I think it's fantastic. And I certainly look forward to seeing a lot more of him in the suit.
That's so great. As a follow-up really quickly, do you let what is going on in the DC, like the movie universe, kind of influence or affect your work? Do you try to tie it together, or do you pick up on the looks of certain actors or anything like that?
I think it's more the other way around.
Yeah.
I think I've seen more of my influence there than what I've seen from there in my work. And I think that's partially because, they have so much of our material to draw from. Certainly like in Batman versus Superman, where, for us to react to the movies is much more difficult because they're more infrequent and more sporadic. But that's just my history.
Nice. Gosh, I could sit here and talk to you about this all day. What do you think about Witcher? I'm just kidding.
That's fun.
Just everything Henry Cavill. We're good.
Yeah. This is awesome. I know we've got to let you go, so I truly appreciate your time.
Well, I just got to know.
You got one more?
Just right on the back of that, since we're talking. How did you feel about the adaptation of so much of your work you were talking about in the movies, specifically like Batman versus Superman was one where even the Ultimate Edition was one where I thought you clearly had your work really influence that movie. How did you feel about that?
Well, one of the odd things about the Death of Superman, yes, it was 30 years ago, but it has stayed alive in part because of all the different interpretations of it that have been done. We've had several animated attempts. We've seen Doomsday show up in animation. We've seen Doomsday show up in video games. We've seen him in live action, whether it was on the Krypton series, the Smallville TV series, or, you know, as we talked about, Batman versus Superman. And to kind of see that character come alive that way, it really is a lot of fun and a great experience. Just it is to see them, you know, replicate scenes from the death of Superman, like Lois holding Superman's body. So when you see your work taken and reinterpreted on the big screen like that, I mean, it really is a kick, and it's a lot of fun to see. And I look forward to seeing what comes in the future.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And it also just makes me happy that, like, the way we're talking about that original story, the way we're excited for these kind of new angles on that story and kind of seeing how that progresses. I'm excited for a whole new generation of fans that gets to, like, jump into this. If they weren't around during that time, they really get to see what some of that was and was like, and we get to see new things from that. I'm very excited for the 30th anniversary special, and that comes out November 8th. So
yeah, I'm super excited. I'm getting this one, and I'm adding it with my unopened copy of the original.
There it is.
There it is.
It exists. My unopened copy of the Death, my original copy, my open copy of the Death, and now this one.
You have your wristband? Do you have your armband?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, you do. You know,
there's a new one that will be in the Black edition. So there you go.
All right. Oh
yes.
man, thank you, Dan, for coming on. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Well,
I guess
awesome.
we got to do a show after that.
We're good.
I mean, it's like I came to a concert and I saw the act I wanted to see, and now I guess the parking lot, I'm parked way in, so I guess a bit.
That's great.
All right, rest of the show, Comic Book Nation. We are your one-stop shop for all things geek culture. That was our talk with Superman icon, writer Dan Jurgens, and Death of Superman 30th anniversary is coming up. And if you couldn't tell, we have so many memories. That was one of the first times, honestly, before I knew that comic book culture would become mainstream culture one day.
Yeah.
That was one of the first pieces of evidence I saw because, like I said, he's not wrong. Comic book stores, lines out the door. Yep. It was in every newspaper. It was on TV, Entertainment Tonight, when they didn't do everything we did. They were covering Death of Superman in a comic book. And, like, yeah, those things were hot commodities. Like getting that unopened sign of death and just keeping one unopened because it came in this plastic bag with this black bag, and there was a body bag essentially, and
not only do I still have that sealed and unsealed, I know where they are.
Yeah,
like I've kept track of those.
Oh no, those are with my I have a Star Wars #1 comic that's like signed.
There's a lot of comics that I have that I could not tell you where they are.
Yeah, if you see me pulling up the floorboards in my like little shifting wood panel floorboards on my floor, you think it's like a whole safe of money, but it's like comic stuff.
Comics.
And like that are like my retirement plans. So all right, we gotta do the rest of this show. Oh man. So from DC talk to DC talk, part of our job here at Comic Book is we have to follow along with all these weird investors calls. Like if you don't know, all the major studios got to let all the money men know that they're not going crazy and they still have plans to make money, and how they, like, when a fiscal quarter ends, they do a check-in, like, hey, here's how we did this quarter. Here's what we're planning, and like, here's how things are going. Yesterday's was wild, bro. Like, it was wild. It was like Zaslav. Yeah. So Warner Brothers Discovery new CEO is David Zaslav, and this man's like hardcore East Coaster, like from his accent just down to everything. And so this was his real first investors call, and we have to do this for Disney. And Disney and Warner Brothers are the two biggest ones we have to do because they're two big mega corporations with all these properties and IPs, theme parks, and all that stuff. So this was the first one for DC since we got the whole DC Studios announcement and James Gunn of it all and all that. And it was wild. Just some behind the scenes stuff for you guys. It was wild. We were all listening to this as a crew, as the whole comic book crew, because we were writing up what they were saying. and we were all just like cracking up, man. It was like
because it was one of the
it was like listening to Crank Acres or something.
Well, you've
Oh
been,
my God.
Well, like you mentioned, right? You do a lot of these, and like even like WWE does their own like financial quarterly call, NXT does theirs, right? So you get a different flavor of like everybody's approach. And Disney's very like, you know, like if for especially the ones with Iger before, like they're very like orderly. Here we're moving through the things. You're gonna get like a little information, but like not a ton. Like you really have to kind of, you know, press to get those bigger answers. Zaslav's was like, he was just giving all, like he was really, and that is one thing I will say, like he was honest on a lot of stuff. Like when he got a question or when there was something he talked about, he would give you that extra mile of detail or information. Sometimes he got roasted for it, but like it was one of the most entertaining calls. Easy. And so like, you know, it's if that's what, you know, the future ones will be, I don't know. That's like demand. That's like tuning. I need to watch. That's a show. I need to watch that. It is nuts.
Oh no, I'm in. Yeah. I'm in just for the Zaslav of it all. It was nuts. But he was like, hey, look in here. We want to make money. We're not doing that doesn't make money. We look at it. Did it make money? Yes. Okay. We move it over. Did it not make money? No. Stop talking about it. Next question. You know, like
Zaslav's turned into the
anime. It's so great. I just want to like an entire recap done by Kobe.
Oh man. So anyway, the actual news we got out of this thing. So yeah. So there's sequel plans for the Batman 2.
Well, okay, so the biggest thing would be the HBO Max and Discovery Plus.
Yes, they're replacing HBO Max already,
and it's coming sooner than we expected because it was
spring.
Spring of 2020. Wait, this spring or 2023?
Well, that would be spring 2023.
Oh yeah, spring 2023.
Yeah, we're all doing.
I know. We're doing so, which is great news actually, because right now it's just this weird. Like what? Yeah, you're all the same company, but like there's still you still have to sign up for Discovery Plus if you want like
2023.
All of the Food Network stuff, which like I'm a huge.
I love Food Network stuff.
I know, right?
So especially for the holidays.
There's a kids show on there.
Yeah, that's all that's on my.
The Ember loves, and like we have to sign up for this. So like it'll be nice to have it all together. And then that also led to him like talking like he addressed all the cuts they made to HBO Max recently, which was like a ton of show. Was it 37?
Yeah.
It was like 37 like projects that they were just like, nah, we're not going to continue to do those. And look, he gave his answer and, it's very direct and very, I can see while I might disagree with the, like how much or the extent, the how many of the cuts they made or what things, the reasoning is as it kind of goes with everything else they've done. I mean, this is the same company that, wrote off the whole movie. So if there's a bunch of shows or whatever that aren't producing the views to their, whatever their metrics are, they've been very like, no, we're going to cut like this stuff. Like we have to cut debt and we have to do this. So it was very on brand for what so far this has been. The other big thing that drew a lot of ire, though, was that him saying that he wants to work with J.K. Rowling again.
No, well, okay, let's be careful here. He said that he was going through, like, he was basically, it was a weird thing because he was kind of crapping on what had been happening there while saying this is what we're going to fix at the same time. So it was kind of like a slap and a hug at all at once. But what he said is they hadn't married.
He hopes to work with her.
He said what he said something was like if we can find a way to work, work with her
because they've stalled the other movies.
What he didn't say is we are not working with her, which is what some people.
That's true.
Really wanted
he did say that. That's true. Yeah, he did not say we are working with her.
No, he didn't. But he didn't say we're not working with her.
Right,
which is what some people are mad about.
Yeah, and so
but he was talking about how. Yeah, it was weird because he was talking about how they've kind of dropped the ball. Like he was saying, we haven't had a Harry Potter anything in like, a minute.
Not wrong.
Not like anything. And we're going to find a way to do that if we can find a way to work with JK again. And it was just like, ooh, yeah. And at that point, we were all like, we were all in the chat, like, hit his mute button. Like, tap his mute button. Stop him.
Where's his PR rep?
Yeah, like, just don't
tell him. Don't say that. Yeah, I agree.
But HBO Max Discovery makes sense because he's not completely wrong. Like HBO Max is great. It has that prestige stuff. It has DC stuff, but HBO has always been weak in the trash TV department. The stuff that you'll sit down and mindlessly watch.
Yeah.
You go to HBO for something like you're going to watch and you're in and you're out. And that's the problem.
Yep.
You don't run HBO Max all day. Nobody does. You need these services that you run all day or at least for hours at a time. Peacock, I could put on The Office, let it go, and then I don't come back and I'm folding laundry. I come back in like 3 hours and I'm like, oh, we still have this on?
Yes.
Netflix.
The one change to the one exception is Friends.
Yeah.
And that's that's the exception. That's the one thing, and they need more of those.
If you show me one more interview with one of those people, I never watch it anyway, but I'm going to burn it off the streaming.
You never watched Friends?
No.
Oh my God.
Friends, those people are terrible. If you didn't see the Matthew Perry interview, they're terrible. They were terrible in the 90s, and I knew that.
No, I didn't see this.
I did not want to see a show with one type of people all being friends, hanging out in an impossibly rent situation in New York City. I didn't need that, and I still don't. So I'm good. And now that I just more and more I hear about these actors, they just never turn out to be that great. Like
so, don't meet your heroes, kids.
Seinfeld
every single celebrity, I'm telling you, every single one.
Seinfeld is better than.
No, it is not. Yes, you could.
What are we doing in this show?
No, How I Met Your Mother is the best.
What is better?
Seinfeld is 10 times better than Friends.
What is better? What is your qualification though for better? Funnier? Because it's not funnier to me.
Better produced, better written, better characters.
I won't argue
better
on
stories.
Produced. I won't argue
Lasted
on produced. Better stories,
more popular across things.
More popular? No, it's not more popular than Friends.
Yes, it is.
There is. What is the metric?
They need me there, guys. They need me
to just use ourselves here.
Separate them.
10 people who look like you, 10 people who look like me, and ask them to run down a Friends episode for you. 10 people who look like me, 10 people who look like you, and ask them to run down a Seinfeld. I made a whole Seinfeld album.
I'm saying we're not talking. Okay, but that is so you're saying
thank you, Brywood.
Brywood,
thank you. Brywood, I can't say this, but thank you, Brywood, for saying it for me.
Okay, the show. Okay, we can't go. No, we're not derailing this. We're not derailing this because I have follow-up questions, and we're not.
Yeah, we're getting derailed here.
All right, so the other big thing was not actually from the conference, but it was the Batman 2. How do I pronounce his name? I always feel like
Barry Keoghan.
Is it Keoghan? Okay,
yeah, I think
so. He just kind of threw out some things of like that he has not heard. Like if he's going to be involved in the Batman sequels or any of that. However, if he is, he's prepared because he developed a whole backstory, a whole thing to his Joker that debuted in that deleted scene that got everybody talking. So to me, it's kind of like, how do you ignore that? Like, how do you ignore that? You're going to bring him in some way. He might not be the main villain, but like, we're going to involve that, you know?
We need him in some way.
So, so to me, that for someone who has been on Batman burnout but still loves the Joker, does that make you happy, Janelle? Like, are you excited about that?
I am. Honestly, I've kind of come full circle on my Batman burnout. I had my moments, and even Joker, I was starting to get a little burned out, but it's been long enough since, we've had a big Joker movement to where I'm really excited. Plus I dressed as Joker again for Halloween. And now I literally every Halloween, I watch Batman with Jack Nicholson and like, I get really excited about Joker again. So like, he's my favorite Joker. So
I kind of saw your costume, but then I saw your husband dressed as a male Harley Quinn. And then I got really confused and closed Instagram. And
I definitely made him a male Harley Quinn. It was great. Yeah.
I got very confused. I was like, "Ooh!" And then
I was actually going to ask who your favorite Joker was, but now that's perfect.
The hottest one we all know is Jared Leto, but my favorite is Jack Nicholson. Yeah, it's my childhood.
Yeah. So why don't we? It's a shame we need to start pulling from Janelle's Instagram.
Other than if there was anything else you wanted to touch on from the HBO Max call. That was pretty much it.
That was it. Like, it was just, the Zaslav thing was clearly the funniest thing about
the best part.
But yeah, it was this weird slap and a hug. It was him coming in and being like, Daddy's here, and what are you asking me questions for? I'm fixing this crap. They made a crap mess out of all this, and I'm here to fix it. And we're going to make money.
Question, is any pricing going to change or anything? Or
they pointed out that HBO Max has not had a price change in 3 years.
Okay.
And I think that was the soft buildup to tell us we get a price.
Which, by the way, Also, it's the most expensive one, so like that's why.
Yeah.
It's $16-something a month.
It's not cheap.
So
That's wild. I have it included in my cell phone plan. So yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's to me, that's the one that hurts the most.
Yeah.
Is because
yeah.
because of what Kofi said, it's not on all day.
No.
I can make that excuse for like Netflix. I can make the excuse for Amazon Prime Video, Peacock. Those can be Hulu. Those have shows that like Aniso or Ember or me will go on kind of binges, and we'll just have it on in the background.
Right.
HBO Max doesn't have that aside from Friends, and I will say League of Super Pets got played for like 2 weeks straight.
Oh, it's still going. It's still rolling in my house.
Ember loves that movie, and so do I. That's a great movie. So yeah, so like other than that though, that price hurts. So when like there's not a big House of the Dragon or something commanding your attention, that's the one that's always on the bubble for me.
Yeah, you forget about it.
Yeah, it's like $20, man. So yeah, I will be bummed that.
And I will say, HBO Max does have the best lineup of movies, but you have to remember that and go in there and looking for a movie.
Yeah,
which is harder to do when you're a parent. But this will, I mean, they will have their boot on our necks, but they'll be able to, because just the Food Network alone, half of you are all paying for that to watch that all day still. Like,
right.
So,
well, that's Discovery.
Yeah, they're gonna have their foot on our necks.
Catalog.
So we can't do anything.
Actually, like, because doesn't Discovery also have like TLC?
Yep, they have all
Pawn
the
Stars,
TV.
baby. I will be watching Pawn Stars on.
It's really
loop.
genius. It's prestige content that you only watch sometimes, movies that you only watch sometimes, and then trash TV to fill in the gaps. It's
So
actually going to be genius.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at the idea.
No.
I'm thinking like I would have never put those together because they're so separate, but that's what they need.
Yeah,
They
that's
each
what they need.
that. Discovery needs to look less trashy. HBO needs a little bit more fun, bingeable TV.
I watch
Marriage
Pawn
Made
Stars
in
on
Heaven.
YouTube right now.
Yeah.
So if you give me a thing to have it on, I'm game.
Exactly.
Justify my money.
Yeah.
All right, we need to take a break.
Yeah, we can take a break.
I'm
We're
just
taking a
sipping
break.
my
We're gonna come
coffee,
back.
listening to you guys go ham, and I love it.
Oh yeah, we're in weird places.
This has been such a fun show.
We're going to talk about Andor, The Witcher, WWE, and comics, and just show you guys why we are the one show that does it all for geek culture. So stay tuned. So, welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the show where me and Matt are going to the internet right after this to figure out if Friends or Seinfeld is more popular. This is a pressing thing we need to figure out. So
Are you going to run a poll
Yeah, we're gonna do a poll.
Yeah, we're
on
gonna do a
Twitter?
poll.
Let's
Yeah, on
go.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm
All
excited.
right, back to the show and holding this whole thing together. So, let's talk about our TV recaps for this week. First of all, I'm going to talk Andor. I can reveal to you guys now that I got to see both, or I did tell you last week, I got to see Andor episodes 9 and 10.
Oh,
So I've seen the one after this.
no.
And I will not spoil a thing for you, but all I will say to get you guys hyped is if you thought that heist was something, you better strap in. Andor episode 10. You better be there. Andor episode 9. This show, I've written so many articles this week about it. Some of them have been even looked at and picked up and seen by some of the people in the show. But just talking about, it's criminal that people aren't watching this more than they are. And Andor's doing okay. I'm not saying it's like doomed, but this should be a much bigger talking point. And I wrote a whole breakdown of what's going on with the Star Wars franchise. But I also think that Disney, and I wrote a separate article saying that I think Disney is the one who's responsible a little bit for this. I don't think Andor is the regular kind of pulpy comic, genre content that we're used to getting from Disney Plus. there's nothing about it that's going to make you want to stay up at 2 a.m. and watch this, or 3 a.m. if you're East Coast. There's not enough like Twitter feeding things like, oh my God, those sit up, the Leo DiCaprio memes. There's none of that. It's serious discussion stuff that you come away. You actually have to watch this, think about it, maybe even read some pieces about breaking it down and what the meanings and metaphors are. And you start thinking about it and you discuss it. I think Disney needs to move this to like a prestige slot, like Sunday nights. Put it out Sunday night, put it out prime time or even early, like 7 o'clock Eastern time.
Yep.
And we watch it like where our brains are trained to watch an HBO show or a prestige show, so that we can watch it in real time, be awake enough to all start some kind of discourse and discussion. What did this mean? Oh, what was that? That was crazy. That's what they need to do for season 2, because the Wednesday, Thursday slot stuff, it's just not right.
It gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
I barely hear about this show, and I'm on social media all the time, like just because of the nature of our jobs, right? So like I don't see it, like it just gets buried under everything else that happens during those hours all throughout the week, whether it's just big news dropping, conference things. Like I heard all about the HBO Max stuff all day. Like I didn't hear one thing about like teasing Andor or hey, what happened? Like it just gets buried, and that's unfortunate,
Yeah. So I think it's just kind of a dual thing. Fans aren't used to Star Wars prestige content. I do another show where I talk to my old friends Rob Keyes and Ben Kendrick, and we were talking about this. This is the first time Disney Plus has actually put out a prestige content thing that you say should be on an award stage, possibly with like HBO content or AMC in their heyday, Netflix in their heyday, and putting on that type of show. We've never seen it from Star Wars or Disney Plus. Everything else has been fun, kind of like I said, pulpy genre stuff. So I think we need to retrain our brains. I think that Disney needs to retrain their marketing department. Stop making them do featurettes like, yay, we're playing in Star Wars. No, get real. Talk about it. Talk about prison industrial complex. Talk about fascism. Talk about all the things you're dealing with in the show.
Yeah.
Kofi, hot take. This is probably my favorite Star Wars anything I've ever watched.
Wow.
That's not, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, that's the hot take as in that's the most attractive one. Yeah. That's my thing too. And it's one of the best shows on TV right now, period.
I'm actually like motivated.
The Ringer, there was an excellent article over on the Ringer, shout out to the Ringer, about how we all have been discussing like, ooh, House of Dragon versus Rings of Power and Stranger Things and all that. And it's like coming out of this year right now, I'm like wondering, just like they were, is it Andor that's been like the thing that I really am like most attached to this year so far? Because I like this more than House of the Dragon and Rings of Power because it does say something serious. And there was a lot of great stuff in this.
I didn't say that, but I like it for Star Wars. Like this is just totally different.
Oh, there it is. Look at this.
Asterisk. All right, you were riding with me for all the second there.
House of Dragon, Targaryens.
No, I love that. Your bias is clear. We know you guys go to House Targaryen.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things
still my favorite.
Stranger Things,
unbelievable.
That was a great event.
But this is up there with those. And that's the point.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
You can put that in the discussion. Andor has been great. My thing to you is, because you mentioned like, should it shift times or should it shift days?
Yeah, Sunday. I would say
would it have been better bingeable?
Friday.
Would it have been better to have been out all at once, like the Netflix?
I would put out the 3 arcs. I would have put out the 3 arcs.
Okay.
Because what they do is we now know they do 3 episode arcs, right?
Right.
And so there's always this kind of like resetting of the board, build up episode, then big thing. Same with this prison episode.
I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah, the 3 arcs.
Yeah.
That'd have been great. I mean, I would have done that too. But I think that's a good idea. I would do 3 arcs, put it, and then in that case, put it out on a Friday.
Right.
Friday, prime time. Just like
we'll have all weekend to
Rings of Power.
To jump into that and then
sustain them watching throughout a whole weekend. You know, it's 3 episodes, 3 hours, boom.
But then it has that hook, right? Exactly. It has that, oh man, did you see what happened at that? And then you reset the board, move forward. I think I think that could be the best of both worlds in that respect. If we get do we know we're getting a season 2 like official or not?
No, it's already
It's already green. Okay.
Oh yeah, season 2 is already greenlit. Okay. 12 more episodes.
Perfect.
Right at the beginning. It's, and this next one will actually time hop. So it will hop through the 5 years before, this one's all happening in the same kind of period. This next season will time hop through the rest of the years and end right when he goes to a place mentioned in this episode, Kafrene, where the Imperial people are looking to set that trap, is where he goes to that mining colony and finds out about the Death Star, and that's the beginning of Rogue One.
Okay, man. Yeah, so, I think that 3 would rule.
Yeah, so I mean, Andor is so good. Please watch it. It's great. Matt, you got to deal with The Witcher.
Oh, I was like, wait, where are we going? Yeah, so there's been a lot going on in the Witcher world lately, both in the games and in the shows. But of course, the biggest news, which just by the way, just got like dropped in like a random time. It felt
like
so random.
They acted like it wasn't even a big deal. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're like, we noticed this. Like,
Yeah, right.
It's
like when they announce a new cookbook or something. You're like, oh yeah, by the way, this is great. Like your main actor's leaving, and then you're bringing in another name star. Like it was a lot going on there for just a kind of a press release. But
just to give overall context to the mainstream people, what we're talking about is the Netflix show The Witcher has lost its main star, who is to bring us all around.
Henry Cavill. So Henry Cavill is going to be exiting the show starting with season 4. So season 3 is done as far as like filming and everything. They're wrapping up a post, and that'll be out next year. So we have one more season of Cavill, and then after that, Liam Hemsworth will be stepping into the role of Geralt for season 4. So that is kind of the big thing. More and more has come out since that initial announcement. Nothing like officially concrete as to why Henry's leaving, but you know, it doesn't go by a lot of people's minds that like, oh, hey, last week, the week before, or whatever, he just got announced to be brought back for Superman, and there's sequels being theorized, right? So there's a lot. Obviously, Superman and being back in that huge franchise has to play some sort of role. For me, it wasn't like he just ditched Witcher at the moment he got the Superman thing. For those who've been paying attention as far as just like the Witcher's like filming and everything, season 1 and season 2 have had really arduous filming like process. Like of course it was the pandemic playing a role, right? But then like Henry got injured. Filming had to stop multiple times, both for COVID reasons and just for like freak accident reasons. So like there's a lot going on those last 2 seasons, and also it's a show, and it's a heavy show as far as like time and stuff. So he's off the board to do other projects, and he still managed to fit some in, but he's off the board for those projects because of the length of time Witcher takes to film. So if you're looking at, well, I'm going to jump back into this franchise, plus I want to do other stuff, you can understand a bit of why he would go, okay, one more season. We've already got that in the can. We'll bring someone else in. The other big thing, though, that is troubling, because one of the things is like how are you feeling about the future of the Witcher franchise after this, right? Because Henry is a big star.
Yeah.
On top of that, those who kind of follow him and stuff, he is a enormous fan of the Witcher as a franchise. He played the games umpteen times. That was like he sought out the role of Geralt to be a part of this, and so it is disappointing to lose that. You're losing this just kind of big, focal point of the series. But then there was some reports coming out that like some writers over the past 2 seasons like weren't huge fans of Andrzej Sapkowski's books, and so he was always kind of looked at as kind of this encyclopedia of Witcher knowledge. And he's even said, like in season 2, he pushed for more to tie into the books. Lauren Hisrich, who is the showrunner, is also a huge fan of the books. So that was always what made me happy with the show. She's a huge supporter of the books, and this show always kind of geared more towards the books instead of the games. So there's a lot to be excited about. As far as Liam Hemsworth, I've never had like a real like hard opinion on him either way. Like I liked him and stuff, but I've never been like, oh, he made a movie for me. So like I liked him in the Hunger Games, okay? Like so I don't know how to feel about that. I will give him a chance, but it is disappointing to lose Cavill. It doesn't mean like the end of I've seen some truly trash Witcher takes on social media when this news dropped, because now all of a sudden like one chink in the armor shows, and like all these people really show what they've thought, right?
They were waiting. I was like, how long have you had that folder open on your desktop?
Like, come on,
dunk on Witcher memes.
Stop it. Like, so I don't like, the franchise is over or anything like that. But I am like, I'm worried. I feel like a lot of people would be worried about how that transition will be handled, how that will go. Is it gonna work enough for him to kind of just stick around? Because like this was a 7, there is kind of a 7-season plan for this just main show. And then we have spinoffs coming. Blood Origin hits next year. There's another anime movie in development. So like there's a lot.
That's what I want
going
to
on
touch
here.
on.
So
I don't think the Witcher franchise is going anywhere because Netflix leaned into it too much. there's so much that they've invested already in developing this property. And, you know, I may or may not have a family member who works in Netflix legal. And I know just from behind the scenes, like, yeah, when they make these decisions to kind of take on these franchises, they're not just like, they don't do it like season by season. No, Netflix pays to basically own these things for a set amount of time of viewing hours, episodes, whatever it is. So they've got The Witcher, and now they're going to do everything they can with it.
Yeah.
And with or without Cavill. So I don't think the franchise is in danger. I think the fan response might be. Yeah. But, you know, Liam Hemsworth will bring in a whole new thing. Not because he's done anything necessarily. Like, he's always been there. He's not even the guy who got picked in the Hunger Games, right? Like, Peeta got picked. So, you know, he's always just kind of there. He's the Gale of it all. But, you know, he has enough built-in fan base to maybe make some new people check out The Witcher.
And supposedly he is also a fan. That's the thing. So we'll see, like, if that's the case. I don't know if that's just like PR.
Yeah.
That's just like, hey, like, he is a fan. But the showrunner's still in place. A lot of the team is still in place. The move from season 1 to season 2, I really enjoyed as far as like shifts they made, characters. I love season 2. I will also defend season 1. But like this episode in season 2 that actually is on the screen right now is like one of the best episodes of the season. And they did such a good job of like adapting the book. So I am hopeful for that. And I'm going to give him a shot. But I am still like, there's a little part of me that's bummed completely that like losing Cavill, that just sucks. There was also other big news on the gaming front. The Witcher franchise isn't going anywhere. CD Projekt Red, you know, kind of formally announced their new trilogies in the works. It's going to be a while before that comes out, but they're also remaking the first Witcher, which for those who played that game, like going from Witcher 3 to that game is like not a good jump. Like, don't do that. It's a completely different game in a lot of respects, and they're going to kind of remake it into what Witcher 3 was, but for that setting and for that story. So I'm excited for that. So that's also coming, but that's going to be a while. So
yeah, and you guys, because I'm doing so well out here today, like I said before the show started, I'm doing so awesome and firing on all cylinders. You let me skip over the main thing that's in our graphic back here, which is Titans.
You would say
I was gonna say it.
I totally missed it.
I was like, maybe they.
I wasn't watching. I'm not like on my full game this week.
But that's okay. Shifted stuff around.
Yes, we'll shift things around.
So let's get some Titans, Titans, baby.
So Titans is back, baby. All right. So Titans season 4 is here. The first 2 episodes were released by HBO Max. And if you've never seen this show, or if you got in, we're in season 4 now. But season 1 was me and Matt being the only 2 people with a DC Universe access code, and being like one of the only 10 people who watched that very first kind of run of those DC shows on DC Universe. That's how long we've been repping for Titans. And so we've been in with Titans since the beginning. And like I said, it was us and the 6 other people coming to this podcast who saw the show to kind of figure it out, because the biggest thing we'd always get is, so how do I watch this without DC Universe?
Yeah, that was the biggest question.
That was always the biggest question, right?
How do I watch this?
How do I watch this? No, I'm not doing DC Universe. How do I watch this?
How do I watch this?
Oh, man. So we're back for season 4. And right off the bat, I mean, I love, just first of all, if you remember how it started on DC Universe and the budgets they had, like the production of this show just gets better and better and better and better every year. And you can always tell by Anna Diop's look of Starfire. They gave her some rough wigs in the beginning. This was before, you know, a lot of the social. There were a lot of just rough wiggings back then. But she looks great. Nightwing, the effects, the fights, all that stuff looks great in this, even, you know, on a TV budget. So shout out to Titans for getting that budget, even though they do the clever dodges of Beast Boy stuff.
Yeah.
Dodge that Beast Boy.
He's expensive, man.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
It is. But like that whole destruction sequence where you just see it afterwards, they Tyrion Lannistered that whole thing. Like, oh, did the battle happen? Like, oh, but, still good. And there was this season 4 premiere introduced a new version of Lex Luthor, which is a big deal anytime you're bringing a take on Lex.
Nice, well over, man.
Oh yeah.
And, they did a great job on it. I know, Matt, you're bursting at the seams to talk. I'm not going to keep talking.
No. I was actually gonna say, when you mentioned the budget thing of like Beast Boy, like not showing that, it was so they could pay for the snakes.
Yeah. Titans is a little hardcore this season with the snakes and stuff coming out of everybody's mouth, though. That's like one of those things I don't need to see. That's the part of Alien, like where I cover my eyes because I don't like the body horror stuff. But yeah, no, it was great. And like I said, Titus Welliver as Lex Luthor.
Man. Bosch.
Wait, that was Titus Welliver?
Yeah, Bosch, man. Which, by the way, you should totally check. You should totally check the website later because I have an interview with him.
He looks
and we will
so
talk all about
that. I recognize Titus Welliver like everywhere. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Boss, like all that other stuff he did. Deadwood, Sons of Anarchy. But like I did not recognize him here.
Yeah, he did. Like he's so good. But also,
no wonder
he is
so
the.
Good.
That was a great conversation to talk to him because he is like a huge comics fan. He's a huge DC fan. Dude has like Marv Wolfman, like Titans, like on his shelf and stuff, right? So like he wanted this role. Like the story behind that is great. So you should check that later. So before I go off on a fun rant, Janelle, because I know you were actually the one that when we were like, oh hey, you want to jump into Titans? Like you were like you binged it. You just went.
Oh yeah, I went
all the way to the end for last season. So
yep.
Into this first 2 episodes, what do you think?
I think that the trailer does not even do it justice. Like, I feel like the trailer didn't excite me very much. And when I tried to I tried to get my husband to watch the show with me, I was like, you can jump in on this season. You're fine. And we watched the trailer. He wasn't about it.
Yeah.
And then when I actually started watching these episodes, it felt like the stakes were really, really high. Everything was super believable in a superhero way, obviously.
Yeah.
And really, really well done. I that's the one thing I want to say is like, I really feel like you could jump in here because they're starting in like a whole different city.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't really have to know these characters all the way through and through. I really feel like you could watch this from start. It feels different. Like this, it's a shift, obviously. And I like how they're trying to add like synths to make it kind of Stranger Things-y in like certain music parts. The costumes are fantastic. Everyone just does such a great job. And shout out to anyone who watched Vampire Diaries. Klaus is in this and he's still pretty.
Yeah. No, I actually
Also
think you bring up a good point in that this is actually a great launching point. Like if you are, yes, you'll have some questions, but you know, those questions might just get you to kind of go catch up on some recap clips or something. Right. This is actually a really good starting point because not only are we starting in a new city, not only are we bringing in like Lex Luthor has never been in the show before. So that's a brand new character for this universe. But then also we're dealing with the supernatural. We're dealing with magic, and we really haven't dealt with kind of as dark a theme as this one since the first season. Like this is really kind of a callback to that original season, which was grittier and darker than some of the others ended up being. And there's some very horror aspects to this, which you're seeing teases of here. But like, I was not prepared for those snake scenes. I was not prepared for those.
I was not expecting.
Even though they've happened, a version of them has happened in the comics, but it was actually like the other way around. But like, still, like it was just, I was not expecting them to go there. Yeah, they look really good.
Yeah.
In a completely gross out way. I will say also, I just Corey has become one of my favorite characters in this show.
And that's great.
She's amazing here. There's
all those haters from the beginning.
Tim Drake.
Great. Oh, did you get the little nod about Tim? Yeah.
And he gets his bow staff, but like I just love the back and forth between him and Dick, because he's like, oh my God, do I get to be
what
Robin?
You talking about?
I get to be Robin? And he's like, dude, you've been a Titan for 5 minutes. Like, no.
But, you got the little lab guy's number. I was like, oh, you guys are going. I was like, okay.
And then what's awesome too is that the acknowledgement of that in the bus, because they're all like, what? Everyone else is also in on it of like, hey, it's great. And it just feels so natural and it's not forced and it's just fun. This show, this season, they're doing some darker stuff. Welliver is great as Lex. I really like what they're doing. I will say I've had a chance to watch some of the other episodes. Episode 3, people are going to have, there's going to be like, it's been advertised in this trailer, like Jinx is in this show.
Yeah.
People are going to come away with like, that character is going to become a fan favorite very, very, very quickly. And it's just superb. So I'm excited for people to see some of those things. I've enjoyed this, man. I really love Titans. Like,
and can we talk about, the Titans crew, also this cast, man. Talk about the fit. They've been all looking fit since season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's looking tight, smoothed out, tanned out, looking good. And I was just like, because I noticed, I was like, wait, who is this? I was like, did they replace Raven? And I looked up, I was like, oh no, that girl just got much older than when this show started. I was like, everybody's
well, and we see it in the trailer too, like some of the, like she goes through a lot of, they've done a lot of really just great work as far as them as characters and also their suits and they just look.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
they look
the budget,
like heroes, man. Yeah,
they look chiseled, tan, hairstyles are on point. None of this was in season 1. Everything was a little bit rougher cosplay style. Now this looks like the production is great. Everybody looks great. Titans cast is killing it.
So I'm super hyped, man.
And they're so just tight knit and used to these characters now.
That Nightwing is phenomenal.
Yeah, all of them together is just so much fun.
Yeah, it's so fun.
And Anna Diab's Coriander is she's just leading
so
it.
There's a scene with her and Luther that, like, if you haven't watched it yet, like, you're gonna like, it's so good. It sets the setting for both characters so well in that scene. And there's another great moment.
That was like it was right
forward.
Up there with whatchamacallit, Black Widow and Loki, and Coriander and Lex scene.
Yeah, it's so good. So yeah, Titans. Watch Titans, man.
Yeah, HBO Max. There's a reason we're watching HBO Max. We just gave you. All right, now back on track, Matt, to what you wanted to talk about now, wrestling.
Yeah, let's talk some wrestling. Of course, we cannot talk wrestling without Connor Casey, friend of the show, to just like have honorary co-host.
Yeah, we need a proper wrestling introduction for Connor. We need like wrestling intro music.
The millions
come on, be like turn backwards and sunglasses, and turn around and be like.
All right, next time we do that, we gotta do that.
All right,
I'm
Connor,
definitely down for that.
Take it away.
All right, so of course, Crown Jewel is Saturday, and there has been a lot of there's always kind of a lot of talk around Crown Jewel. But because of how divisive the event itself can be sometimes and everything.
I wonder why.
I know, right? This one, a lot of the talk has actually been around, aside from like just very, very recent developments. A lot of the talk leading into this has actually been about Roman Reigns, Logan Paul, kind of the spectacle of this. We have some other title matches on the card. So just kind of going from there, what do you want to see from Logan Paul and Roman Reigns for it to like be a success in your mind?
So it's interesting. I wasn't on when the announcement for the match was made. I believe I was on vacation. And I was pleasantly surprised that the initial reaction wasn't just rage from the online wrestling fan community. It was more of just an eye roll and a shoulder shrug and this is what we have to put up with for a few weeks. Because I think fans have caught on to the fact that these shows are effectively non-canon. For you anime fans out there, this is a filler arc. It really doesn't matter. And come Monday on Raw, most of what happens on this show will not be addressed or mentioned going forward.
Right.
The best example of that is last year's Crown Jewel with Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. They proceeded to act like that entire match did not happen come Monday. And then they just rewound the whole thing again to try and do it again at day one. And if you want a stat to back it all up, here's one for you, Matt. There have been 11 championship matches at the first 3 Crown Jewel events since the show started. Would you like to know how many champions have actually lost?
How many?
1. And it was Seth Rollins losing to The Fiend because they had to make up for the colossal mistake they made at Hell in a Cell. If that doesn't prove to you just how little they value these shows in terms of consequence, there's your answer. As for this one, if I have no expectations, I can't be disappointed. I have no expectations for Logan versus Roman. Here's what's going to happen. Jake Paul's out there. He's going to knock out somebody. It's probably going to be Jey Uso. Logan's going to take that one fist they keep saying has metal screws in it. He's going to pop Roman with it, get a close 2 count, and then Roman's going to put him away. The match won't go longer than 12 minutes. There you go.
Yeah. Look, I'm with you. I agree wholeheartedly on everything. That's why I don't get too worked up about these, because it's like, it's I don't even like when the conversations of, Logan Paul's already getting a title shot. I'm like, yeah, but it's here. It doesn't matter. Like it's
at the show that doesn't matter. If this were happening at a pay-per-view stateside,
right,
then we could talk and be like, oh, you're actually going to try and hurt this thing.
Because then you're robbing. And that at that point, those things of like, well, he's robbing someone else of a spot. Like, yeah, but Crown Jewel, like half the people don't even want to be in that spot. Like it's not, they don't want to be there. So yeah, I don't look at this. This is pure spectacle. That's why when it was announced for Crown Jewel, I was actually like, it's perfect. This is exactly what you do. You do something just off the wall, let them run with it. You get Paul some experience, in the ring and whatever. And then you can, when you're back on your normal continuity, you move forward with all the other stuff. So I agree. Give me a fun match. Give me some fun spots and give me some entertainment. I'm good. It doesn't need to, rewrite history.
And you're probably going to get that. It just scrolled by the Brock and Bobby match. That's going to be match of the night. That's going to have some crazy stuff in it. If you're going for spectacle, watch that match. If you're going for an in-ring classic, do not watch the main event.
There's also that thing of they made a shocking change to the women's tag team titles on Raw, because I didn't see that coming. I thought that was going to be Damage Control keeping their reign, because that, like, in my brain made the most logical sense. But Alexa and Asuka get it, and now we have this match here. There's no way they drop those titles again, right? They're going to keep them.
I have no idea what they're doing with Damage Control. For a group that had so much hype when they arrived at SummerSlam, look at what they've actually done since then. Bayley consistently loses to Bianca in title matches. They failed to win the tag titles on their first attempt when they were vacated. They finally won them, only to lose them a few weeks later on a random main event of Raw.
It's weird.
I'm a little baffled by, hey, this is your first real, like, serious female faction WWE has ever had, and you're just kind of 50-50 in them. And if Bayley loses again tomorrow, which I'm expecting, what momentum does this group have, even if they do win back the tag titles?
Do you think I just look at this and go, I would love for Bayley to pick up a title reign and move forward. I'm a big Bayley fan. But I love Bianca, right? And she's a fan. I don't see any chance of them dropping the title on her at Crown Jewel. Like, that's a stateside pay-per-view thing. You're gonna that just doesn't. Survivor Series is coming up. That would be the perfect spot for that to happen. So,
and you're doing War Games there, and my guess is if they do anything, it's a winner take all between those three titles with 4 women on each side involved.
Yeah,
that's my best guess. But
then,
Damage Control is weirdly one of the few marks I would put against Triple H for his first 100 days. Because we've hit this week. It's been 100 days since Triple H has started booking. And this is one of the few black eyes where I just go, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, no, there was a lot of talk about long-term planning and stuff. I hope there is a plan for that and it'll all come to fruition. But right now it looks odd. We're talking about Roman. So there has been a lot of talk over the past year and a half. We've had a couple on this show where who beats him. A lot of the first thing was Cody Rhodes. Then he got hurt, and that kind of derailed any, and it was like a legit injury that's going to take him off the board for a while. So, okay, you don't know where he's coming. All of the bloodline stuff has been fantastic. I love the bloodline. Sami Zayn, Sami Uso has been amazing on the bloodline. And those chants, watching SmackDown every week, and those chants of Sami gets every time he talks. Like he can just smile to the camera and he gets a chant, right? Plans change over time. Is he the one that beats Reigns? We're looking for that face, and he turns eventually and he gets that moment and he's the one.
So I think we're asking the wrong question when it comes to Sami. This is certainly a lightning in a bottle situation, but I don't think it ends with Sami actually beating Roman. If anything, I think what this is leading to is Sami reuniting with Kevin Owens, us getting that big, friendship hug spot, and then they turn around and beat the Usos for the undisputed tag titles at Mania. I think for as much momentum and hype as Sami has gotten, I don't think this derails any of the plans that they have for Roman. Until I'm proven otherwise, I have resigned to the fact that Roman is walking in with both titles at WrestleMania. It's a mistake. It shouldn't be done. But he's going to walk in with both those over his shoulder, fighting The Rock. The Rock is going to lose. And then we still have the problem of Monday Night Raw not having a world championship and therefore no momentum.
Acknowledge.
So that's not going to get fixed probably until SummerSlam, because that's probably when we're getting Roman Cody. I keep hearing people pitch this idea that we're going to get Roman Cody on the first night and Roman Rock on the second night. And there's a few reasons why that's a terrible idea. Reason number one, if Roman gets hurt in that first match, y'all are screwed.
Oh my God.
Number two, you do not try to detract attention away from Roman versus Rock, the biggest match you can possibly do, by having a third guy come in and say, hey, by the way, Roman, I'm fighting you on the first night. Bye. No,
I agree.
not going to happen. If Roman is sharing the ring with anybody, it's Dwayne. So
I agree.
They're going to, if anything, Rock's going to win the Rumble so that conversation of, well, who's actually fighting for the title, it goes away.
And we get that Black Adam 4th week swell. You know?
Yeah, we have to get that Black Adam crossover, man. It'll be on Blu-ray by then. Okay, yeah. No, I would like to say I'm actually very much on board for Roman holding these titles. You
don't have to cover Raw each week, which is why you say that.
I would love it to be split. No, I would love the titles to be separated. I want him obviously as champ going into WrestleMania. That makes all the sense in the world. I'm okay with it being split in a way that protects him. There are scenarios you can do that and get the title off him, and so that Raw has a title and stuff, right? But I also am very much against the 2-night Cody Rock back to back. That does no one any favors. Those are big matches that you can advertise and talk about on their own. They're worthy of that. Shine a light on them. Don't just dilute them. I know we got to go, but Bray Wyatt has made his glorious return to WWE, and he will be appearing, which actually surprised me. He will be appearing at Crown Jewel. This one actually kind of threw me because I wouldn't necessarily have thought he would be on this card. So what do you think about all that?
You know, with Bray, I loved the White Rabbit thing, and I thought the return at Extreme Rules was fantastic. Everything since has kind of been meh, but it seems like it's all building. I'm still waiting for it to build to a point. The Uncle Howdy thing, where he looks like old Greg from the Mighty Boosh, all my Adult Swim heads out there will know exactly what I'm talking about. That's where he's showing up in a mask where the mouth can't move, but we've zoomed up on the face, so it just looks weird.
You don't like that?
It's a bit of a mess right now. But then again, the Firefly Funhouse, I didn't get it at first until that first segment where he was actually on the set. So Bray has proven me wrong before, and he can certainly do it again. We just need a semblance of some forward momentum.
Now, here's the thing. There have been the rumors that is Bo Dallas under the mask and not Bray.
Okay.
Look,
Bo Dallas.
Bo leave. I'm all about Bo Dallas being Uncle Howdy. I'm fine with that. As the person who was not a big Bray person in the past, because I was never The Fiend, I did not get into it all. Firefly Funhouse, I liked that section of it, and the John Cena thing. I thought that was amazing. So there were highlights, but I was never just a big buyer in on that stuff. I will say this stuff has worked for me just because of his kind of very weird personal promos that he's done. He's adapted a little bit of a different style, and I've been grounded by those. But yeah, it is. I will be curious to see what this is because I'm just curious. So as we exit out, what has been? It's been 100 days. We've seen a lot of returns. There are even some rumored ones coming up. So that train's not stopping. What is the best return you've seen so far? And is there one that has not worked for you?
The Johnny one, I think, was the best because it came out of nowhere and we weren't expecting it. And it was just very matter of fact, happened on Raw. There was no build, and he's back, and they've actually treated him like the Johnny Gargano of NXT, as opposed to just an also ring, which was the fear everyone had if he was ever going to get called up. The one that hasn't worked for me, honestly, it's the OC. I don't think people have jumped on the whole, is Carl Anderson still working for New Japan? As this massive sign that WWE is going to start working with other companies, and the forbidden door is coming down, and Triple H is going to swoop in and take AEW's advantage of having the good working relationships with other promotions. I don't think it's nearly as big as people think it is. They sent Shinsuke Nakamura off to Noah because Shinsuke's not getting booked on TV. They got Sasha Banks pretending that she's posting fan art that she's going to challenge for the IWGP Women's title with Kairi Sane. Do you really think that's actually going to happen? Probably not. And as for Carl Anderson, before he showed up on Raw, was anybody talking about the Never Openweight Championship or his match with Hikuleo? The answer is no. It wasn't. There was no hype. There were no headlines. It was nothing. And we jumped on it because, oh my God, there's a working relationship with New Japan. They are going to show up on New Japan maybe once, and it'll be at Wrestle Kingdom, and it'll drop the belt, and we won't hear a peep about it on the WWE side of things. So and they're just back to doing the stuff they were doing back in the COVID days, and it doesn't feel like anything's really changed on that front. So, I'm always glad that they give AJ Styles something to do, but other than that, it's been meh, because we just keep going back to, are we teasing Bullet Club? No, not really.
Yeah, no, they won't do that. Yeah, all right, so we got to close it up there. But
Connor, before you go, I had one just important question for you.
Wrestling question? What?
Friends or Seinfeld, which is better?
Oh God, I knew it wasn't related.
Seinfeld. No one talks about a Friends episode anymore. But if you go on TikTok, people are doing Seinfeld parodies all the time.
Where are you watching?
No one talks about Friends.
There's not a 10-minute period where a reel or a TikTok video doesn't pop up of
Thank
Friends.
you, Connor.
And there's not a reel or TikTok. I don't see every 10 minutes of someone doing a 2022 version of Seinfeld.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Connor.
It's better. By the way, check out Wrestling on CB on TikTok. You guys been asking for a particular show to start happening. If we hit a particular milestone, that show gets greenlit. So go follow us on TikTok.
Wait, what do we need to do?
I
Follow
ain't
you on
telling you
TikTok.
another word about it. Go follow me.
You better go follow CB Wrestling on TikTok.
Yep, you go follow
All
on
right.
TikTok.
So go follow CB Wrestling TikTok. You heard the cry.
Hell,
All right, we got
yes.
a little bit of time left. Let's get to these comics.
Yeah, it's
Oh, I forgot.
so much. Okay, so Batman 129, diving back into the world of Batman. This is the continuing adventure of this Gotham dominated by Failsafe, the Failsafe created by a younger Batman, but created by Batman of Zern Ra to kind of keep himself in check if you ever went in check. But a key thing is revealed here that I actually thought was interesting, which it was good. I needed context. So the reason why this all blew up is because Failsafe is supposed to, anytime he senses like Batman going too far, it's supposed to activate, right?
Mhm.
And so in the past, Bruce, during his kind of monologue, reveals that it was Alfred who would always turn off the false alarms, because it'd be like, oh, he went a little too far, and he's like, no, he's okay. And he would turn them off. Well, since Alfred passed,
he was the fail-safe of fail-safe.
Yeah, he was the fail-safe of fail-safe. So when he passed, no one was manning that because Bruce didn't even know that this existed. So that's why he's out now. So I thought that was actually a really critical piece. It's only a page.
Crazy how Chip Zdarsky can take some of the most comic booky stuff, but make it feel like it makes sense in a way.
It makes sense.
Because when you just said that out loud, I never thought about it until you just said it out loud, but it is so complicated what they've done. So basically in the past, after Tower of Babel, Batman knew he could freak out and needed somebody to stop him, but he couldn't trust himself to design it because he wouldn't be able to do it. So he gave it to his alternate personality that takes care of things when Batman can't. And that guy designed this thing and left Alfred in charge of turning it off. But then Alfred died, and now this thing, because of the Penguin fake death thing, is nobody was left to turn it off.
Makes perfect sense.
Right. All right. Comic books. But
makes perfect sense.
But the thing is about Chip Zdarsky is he's so good that I don't care about any of this while I'm reading it. Like, I'm just like minute to minute, like, are they going to get away from this robot?
Yeah.
And it's so good.
It picks up and then of course we get the Aquaman of it all, and we're seeing what I love about this so far is, like, obviously in your head you go, okay, well, the way to beat him would be to do the opposite of what you would do, right? Because he thinks like you and he's faster than you, and he's a robot, so he doesn't even have to do the things you have to do. So then do what he's not expecting. Well, that's harder, especially when you're Batman and someone that's all you do is think about scenario. That's harder to do than you would expect. But I love how Zdarsky is like planting those seeds. You see a little bit of that here, but it's not just like this switch where it would be treated in a lot of places of like, all right, I'm not thinking like myself, and then in 5 minutes we're going to solve this and beat him. I like that we're seeing like little bits of that, and it's just done in a as realistic a way as I feel like you can do in this kind of story, grounded way. What did you think, Janelle?
I'm about this. I love me some Terminator Batman. It's a different take on Batman because, as you know, we've been on a little bit of an overload of Batman content, and it still feels refreshing and something different. I love that they're working in, obviously, like Justice League peeps And that's really cool to see, and how it's really affecting the bigger world beyond just like Gotham and Batman. And I'm curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, no, agreed. I like that we're seeing how Failsafe poses a threat to just like everybody, but doesn't leave.
Yeah.
Like, scared, but like all these people are held up somewhere. But then let's move into Marvel and Secret Invasion #1. This is written by Ryan North, who I adore because Ryan North wrote the amazing Squirrel Girl series. And if you've never read that, you should, because it's fantastic. So anyway, he's doing Secret Invasion. It's awesome. You should read that. Anyway, that's where we got awesome nice guy Kraven the Hunter as a forever treasure. Anyway, Secret Invasion #1 picks up in a very derailed us. It picks up in a very interesting spot, a very, I would say, typical spot for this kind of book, right? It's Nick Fury focused, it's Maria Hill focused, and you're seeing kind of how this storyline plays out, and it's actually very creepy, and it's not a, like we were talking about Titans before, like leaning into the horror. This is not that. It's just like unsettling in a lot of places. The artwork is really good at that. Like, kind of just something's off, but you don't know what is off, and it gives that feeling. And then we kind of get a bigger twist, and we move into that Secret Invasion style arc that we've seen in the past of this, invasion, and everything's not what you think it is, and can we trust everybody? And they are kind of, not meta about it, but they address that, like, no, we're not going to fall into that trap. Like, they address what happened before, but then
meta's the good word for this.
Those things still seep in. So, I enjoyed this issue. The twist at the end, it did its job. I feel like it hooked me, and I want to see how this progresses. But I'm more interested to see what you guys thought about this.
This was, like Squirrel Girl, it was weird. It was very weird. And it was weird, like, because of the entry point of how they got into the story. And I'm kind of like, I feel like this book is one that is bouncing around between Marvel Comics and the TV, because there is obviously the Secret Invasion TV series.
Right.
And I think this book is kind of to soften us up on our expectations for what that will be, because everybody's coming in, I think, still, even though Captain Marvel should have told you that, like, the Secret Invasion TV series is going to be a very different thing than the comic than the comic book storyline. People are still kind of leaning in that. But I think this book is here to kind of maybe start to reframe our expectations for what it will be, because there are certain scenes in here that feel like they are almost carbon echoes of what we saw in the trailer for the show. Like in the show, we saw that awesome scene of Nick Fury going into a restaurant and realizing that everybody in the restaurant is a Skrull, and that it's this big trap, which is how this book essentially begins. Yeah. With him going in and being like, oh, I'm looking at a Skrull. No, all of you are this, and that kind of reversal. And they've set themselves up for an ambitious thing because, meta is a great word. This book is coming out realizing it's carrying this title of this thing that already happened, but saying we can't do this thing again. Yeah. Like, obviously we would have learned from the first time, like that you people tried to sneak into our planet and take it over. So we have things in place for this now. And this book is kind of an back and forth about, do they really have the upper hand on this or not? And I think the artwork, and I think one thing that is really good about the book is that it keeps you guessing. Yeah. Every scene, you don't know if Fury is talking to Maria Hill and that's Maria Hill, or did you get fooled? Or is this even really Fury? And is the story he's telling, is he a reliable narrator? Did he get scrolled and this is just a scroll we're talking to? Like, all that stuff keeps you off balance and keeps you guessing, which is a hard trick to pull off with Secret Invasion twice, but so far it seems like they're doing it.
Janelle, what'd you think?
I thought they did a really good job of keeping me interested. I liked the juxtaposition of like what he was telling her versus what was actually happening. It was just a unique style comic for me. Like, I've not seen anything really play out like that. So I'm very interested. And obviously it does set up the show for me really well, because I don't know a lot about the Skrulls and all of these backstories. I don't know Secret Invasion. So this is my first Secret Invasion comic book. And I think they did a good job of hooking me and making me interested in the story.
Yeah. Well, and like you both talked about, one of the things too is like trying to follow up on something that's already been is harder than it was before, because we had the element of surprise before. that new Avengers scene will always resonate with me because
Yeah.
when you figure out Elektra, like that scene
That started the dominoes.
hit you. Yeah, and it hit all the dominoes because you hadn't seen it before. And now we already know those things happen. But yeah, I will say the artwork, there's that scene where they all meld into the wall, where they take the camo of the wall or the furniture. That freaked me out, man.
Oh, no, there's some freaky stuff in
It's some freaky stuff. So yeah,
that
I would
was-
definitely recommend checking it out. Just you might be, I don't know how you'll feel depending on how you feel about the original. But that's comics.
But I think for Janelle hit it that like, yeah, it's a good one if you've never read Secret Wars. I didn't think about that. I just assume everybody is.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Those are not comics. Captain Marvel 43, we'll talk about real quick, Janelle. I'm going to let you go off on it because this is the X-Men Captain Marvel team up we've been waiting for, and I've been excited about. What did you think?
Yeah, really good job. I know we have to be quick, but like really exciting. I don't know about Brood. Is it Brood? I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah, they're basically
Brood.
alien. That's
Yeah, I don't know about Brood, but they laid out the backstory in her first interaction with them, and I got that. Everything was really easy to digest and understand. Wait, what? Oh, question mark. I see a question mark.
I'm
Kofi.
just looking at this graphic. How is the Captain Marvel graphic like our hottest comic graphic?
Amazing.
It's the great cover.
I don't know. This one's pretty great, guys. I feel like we should definitely be on the lookout for this one. If you are a big comic book reader, I'm very impressed with the art. I really like the interactions with mutants, and I'm very curious where they're going and what is about to happen. The ending of this, where we're left off, you're like shook. What? I don't want to spoil it because it's literally just the last page, and you're like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah, no, I think Janelle said it best. Yeah, definitely check this. This is the brand new start of a brand new arc, but for longtime Captain Marvel fans, there's a lot there that is being mined, and Kelly Thompson has done a wonderful job of putting unique spins on that. So, what Janelle said, 100% recommend. So yeah, that's comics.
All right, and that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation, your only show that does it all for geek culture, as you saw today. We had a talk with a legendary comic creator. We talked DC. We talked Star Wars, wrestling, comic books. Strangely, I don't think we talked any Marvel today, which is like the first time.
We talked about Marvel and
well, I mean, in the comics, yes, but no Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is weird. But we will be all about that next week because next week, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever will be out. We will be talking about that, of course. So Marvel will get its day. But if you are just now jumping in the show, please follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts is our biggest. You can also subscribe to the Comic Book Nation YouTube page, even if you watch on Twitch. And we love our Twitch crowd, and we don't want you to go anywhere. But even if you watch on Twitch, do please subscribe to the YouTube page and tell a friend to do the same so we can have all our dope content getting out there to a larger and larger audience. Otherwise, we hope to see all of you back, especially our regulars. We'll work on your gear and stuff like that for all our day ones. I haven't forgotten, but we'll work on that. We'll start hitting up Jim. But thank you guys for tuning in. As always, Comic Book Nation, you can always watch us on Paramount Plus throughout the week. Be sure to do that on Mixable, and peace.
Hi, guys.